What's going on, YouTube? Rukari here, back with another episode of the Minotaur Hotel, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame Cathedral, because we're teaching our little boy how to use the internet. He is probably like 3 times my size. I can't really call him little. Before the master can stop him, the Minotaur types Notre Dame Cathedral. A chill runs up the man's spine just as the Minotaur's stomach drops. I'm sorry. I should have given you a heads up about this. Oh, the cathedral burned down. Asterion's ears droop as he reads on.
This is a tragedy.
It is. They're gonna restore it, but it's still horrible. You can still look at plenty of archived footage and pictures of Notre Dame, though. Most historical buildings like it are well preserved and documented digitally. The master shows him the image search results. You mentioned Jean-Marie had made drawings of the building from memory. They do justice to the real thing? More pictures of the cathedral are revealed, but every other image result is news footage of the burning cathedral.
It's strange. You would expect me not to care much about something that is completely beyond my grasp. Even if it had not burned down, it remains off-limits to me. In a way, if it is off-limits to other people as well, I am sharing a little part of my burden with them. That's not something I enjoy.
I'm sorry. Oh, this is too topical. I mean, it's not topical anymore, but I feel bad that the real world is just, why did bad things happen to good people? The Minotaur sulks in silence for a minute or two, and the master gives him space. He considers whether showing Asterion a virtual tour would change his mind, but decide not to keep picking at his wound. Why did I pick that option? I thought it was gonna be fun.
I'm sorry for bringing down the mood, Master. I'd rather not dwell on this subject any longer.
Don't worry about it. And yeah, that's a good idea. Anything else you want to look up? You can look up Crete. It's your homeland.
I wonder how Crete is doing nowadays. The Palace of Knossos was discovered in the late 1800s and excavated in the early 1900s. So, they found it. Little of it is left, but that's it. It's where I grew up. This courtyard, when I was a child, I used to play here with my brother, Androgeus.
How was it living back then?
It was nice, I suppose. If you are wondering about all the modern comforts, running water, electricity, we didn't have any of that. But we lived well, better than most. I even had a room of my own. I know few children from that time could say the same.
Yeah, a lot of times you had to have a lot of kids because the whole infant mortality rate thing, and if you were poor, you didn't necessarily have a big home, and a lot of rooms weren't a thing.
I had a bodyguard to keep me safe. We'd stick together always. Although that may not be the best way to put it. He was only some 7 years older than me when he became my, shall we say, guardian. I must have been 4 years old. My time in the palace was quite enjoyable, in no small part thanks to him. His name was Feronius. But make no mistake, I did have responsibilities. I performed ceremonial duties very often. Feronius always gave me company, and Androgeus would too when his obligations allowed.
At least you had a decent-ish family life, if you forget the part about your father sending you away to live in the labyrinth.
I wonder what else I can find in this internet.
The only thing left is Master Jean-Marie's birthplace, so let's look at France.
There is a place I've been very curious about for quite a while now. Perhaps you've heard of it, the region of Bordeaux.
Yeah, they make great wine. The name rings a bell. Yes, is it a region of France?
Yes, I believe it is. Now, what will your internet tell me about it? France's most prominent wine-making region. I suppose Master Jean-Marie was not bragging. His family's wine must have been quite remarkable. It was captured by the Germans during World War II. Oh, I suppose that makes sense. But it seems to be doing quite well now. That is a relief.
Did Jean-Marie come from this region? W's are hard. R's are hard. Words are hard.
Yes, it's what he used to call his ancestral homeland. He was a patriot. No land on earth was as beautiful and noble as his. He couldn't bear to hear of France's situation in the war. No amount of pleading could stop him from going. The Minotaur could still feel it, the ringing inside his head from when Jean-Marie died. And the rest, I suppose, is history. I wonder what it must feel like walking through one of these vineyards.
Must be refreshing. Sun on your back, maybe a chilly wind cutting through the grapevines, leaves brushing against your arm. I have a question. What if the owner dies before they pass off ownership? Like, if I just right now and didn't give ownership to anyone, what would happen to the labyrinth? Would the deed just sit here waiting for someone else to pick it up? Questions.
I could use some of that.
We could make one then. How about it? Our very own vineyard.
What? But why?
Because I can just make things pop into existence? Why not use it for something fun and nice like that?
My good lord, if only things were so simple, it would be quite the tricky affair, I'm afraid.
Why? What's stopping us?
Contracts, for starters. This land is not hospitable for life, plus that would distract us too much from our mission and the hotels, wouldn't it?
Suppose you're right, but maybe the guests would enjoy it too.
Well, I should not lie, a vineyard would be nice. Who knows, maybe one day, if it's still your wish. This is a nifty invention, this internet thing. The silliest idea came to me, perhaps it's hubris of me to even consider it.
The Minotaur's ears flicker and his snout takes on a livelier shade of pink.
Could the internet have something about me?
Of course, there's the whole legend about you dating back to who knows when. We can find plenty of stuff. I'm not necessarily sure you want to hear all of it, although... I'm gonna go with there are many misconceptions about you. I should warn you in advance, people have many misconceptions.
I see, yes. I cannot say I am surprised. The Athenians were not kind in their telling of what happened. I have known of that for a long time. Let's see, Asterion of Crete. Oh, there is something here. Even if it's not about me. Asterion I became the king of Crete after the death of his father, King Tectimus. After Europa was abducted and taken by Zeus, he married her and became the stepfather to Zeus's sons. Not what I wanted, but this is nice. A shard of my family's history lives.
Is that your grandfather?
Not exactly. He lived a long time before me. I can't even recall how many generations apart we were. There's not much here. I suppose most of it would be forgotten, but... Further down, it says Asterion II, the Minotaur. Let's see what they have about me.
The Minotaur's eyes leap from sentence to sentence. Pasiphae, struck by Poseidon's madness, recruited the artisan Daedalus to craft a hollow cow with which she took the bull's lurch. The hybrid child, said to have the body of the man and the head of a bull, had no place in the natural order and nothing to sustain it. As such, he grew violent and took to consuming human flesh. King Minos commanded Athens to send youths as tribute to feed him, 7 youths, among which was Theseus, heir to Athens' throne. Ariadne, the Minotaur's sister, became enraptured by the Athenian hero and confided in him the secret that the labyrinth could be conquered with a ball of yarn. With Ariadne's assistance, Theseus solved it and vanquished the Minotaur. I feel like this is growing darker and darker as he reads. He escaped Crete with the princess, but abandoned her in the island of Naxos, where it is believed she either met her end or was kidnapped by Dionysus. In the aftermath of the Minotaur's death, Crete fell from its hegemonic position over the Mediterranean. It got really quiet all of a sudden. King Minos set out in pursuit of Daedalus, seeking revenge, for he believed it was the craftsman who revealed to Ariadne the secret solution to the labyrinth. It's definitely getting darker in his room. This in turn led to Minos' death. Boiled alive in a foreign court, the death of the Minotaur marks the fall of Crete and the rise of Athens as the main power in the Mediterranean. The loss of a centralized ruling figure led to fragmentation, which in turn allowed it to be conquered by different civilizations over the course of history. I tried to warn you, buddy. Be supportive? If you'd like to hear a word of caution, not everything you'll find online is true. I imagine that can be distressing, seeing yourself misrepresented. You're not at all like the legend says, it's outright slander, but we both know better. You're kind and hardworking and very important to the hotel and to the people here. That's the truth that matters. That said, it might be for the best if you don't focus too much on what the internet says about you. There are better things for you to search about. The Minotaur draws a breath, holding himself back from coughing.
It's fine. Nothing I didn't already know. The Athenians were not kind in their telling of the tale.
We have our own version of the story now. That won't matter. You're a good boy. I was thinking of going down to the lounge. If I recall correctly, there are some leftovers from last night we could eat. Let's change the subject really quick. If you want, you can stay here and keep browsing the internet. Does that sound good? The Minotaur's fingertips were ice cold. His hooves radiated a dull pain that crawled all the way to the top of his horns. He drew a breath. His fingers curled on the device's surface. His ears went numb as a streak of cold sweat ran down his back.
Yes, I'll be fine. Thank you, sir.
See you soon, Asterion. The Minotaur closed his eyes and recalled it all, the dozens, perhaps hundreds of retellings he had heard across the centuries, each one more horrible than the previous, so often revolving around that fundamental misinformation that he had been a cannibal. Such a life-changing lie. And yet there was something comforting in the simple fact that, cannibalism aside, what he read was exactly what he expected.
See you soon, my lord.
I'm sorry, buddy. You're not a cannibal. Once more, the sound of your footsteps echoes up and down the stairwell, from the skylight so far above down to the depths below. Each one sounds somehow lonely without the now familiar clopping of Asterion's hooves keeping time with them. There is no low, humming, murmuring voice just above and behind your shoulder, no massive body brushing against your side and then pulling away after lingering for the briefest moment. There is no conversation or even companionable silence. There is just you and the staircase. As you take the steps down, your mind drifts back to the night before, to the celebration of the hotel's revival, to Asterion's concert, to the embrace you had shared with the Minotaur before he mounted the stage, and the banter between the two of you while you were returning to your chambers when the night had grown late. You poke your head into the lobby, checking for any early morning arrivals. When you're only met with silence and solitude, you make your way towards the light and life, as hungover and heavy-headed as it may be, of the lounge. What's going on there? Oh god, I'm gonna have to do your voice again too. God damn it. The group of Middle Eastern students are huddled around the same table near the hearth that they had occupied the night before, sharing an animated conversation over steaming cups of coffee. A few of the newer arrivals are scattered here and there, still shooting occasional sideways glances towards the serene dragon manning the bar counter. And Kota himself nods along with Luke's chattering while the Griffin scarfs down his breakfast.
So anyways, what you think, brother? Could be pretty dang fun, huh?
What was your voice again? Perhaps.
Come on, Blue Boy, a little music, a little stargazing, I can make us some snacks. Ooh, you ever tried a pickle pop? Make them big enough and you can lick them pretty much all night long.
Was that an innuendo?
You want it to be?
God dang it, Luke, keep it in your pants. The Griffin tries to keep a straight face, but struggles as the seconds tick away. You finally burst into a fit of giggling while Kota rolls his eyes.
But seriously, pretty much everything's a lot more fun when you do it with someone else. No funny business, I promise. Just two men appreciating the beauty of the night sky together, brother.
Wouldn't you rather spend the time with one of your trysts?
Stuff like that never lasts as long as you want it to.
Luke's gaze grows distant and a wistful sigh escapes his beak.
Come on, please. I promise I'll make it worth your while. We can even get Rukari and Asterion along for the ride, making a real get-together.
What's this about now? The pair looks over to you when you speak up. You move to take the stool next to Luke, and the Griffin wipes his beak with his forearm and greets you with a wide grin.
Good morning, Rukari. Luke was just telling me about his idea to go stargazing and wished for me to join him.
Oh, what brought this on?
Well, I guess it's been banging around in my brain for a while now. See, a couple nights ago I was thinking shit over. It was just after I got here and, well, you know.
He glances over at Kota and then clears his throat and continues.
Anyway, I saw Asterion out on the porch playing that harp thingy of his. We ended up suiting the sit and he laid some stuff out for me that I think I needed to hear. But the stars, man. It was like staring at the face of God. I always loved looking at the stars, and I thought, well, what's better than doing it with some friends?
Oh, so we're friends, are we? The griffin shifts and squirms on the stool with an awkward chuckle.
Well, I mean, I just thought, you know.
Kota hums, low and rumbling as he crosses his arm and closes his eyes, thinking, considering. I suppose that I could use something like that. Something to take my mind off things. Don't misunderstand, Rukari. I'm grateful for the work. But running around to serve the guests while trying to figure out where things are disappearing to is more tiring than I anticipated. Wait, what's disappearing? Kota shrugs. It's the strangest thing. It's usually food, but even the utensils aren't entirely safe. I'll set a few trays out, turn around, and find them picked over the moment I look back. Even the cold room has the occasional can or jar going missing. That's really weird. I don't think one of the guests would be sneaking into the kitchen for food when they can just ask to have it served up. Could the hotel be doing it somehow? I don't think so, but I will admit you or Asterion would know more than I how all this works. I guess I could ask him. But yeah, if you need a break, then this could be good. After everything that's happened over the last few days, I think we could all use it.
Alright, it's a plan then, brothers.
The griffin hops off his stool, stretching his body and lashing his tail in enthusiasm.
Oh man, this is gonna be great. We can get a few cases of a beer out, get some lawn chairs set up, and...
Luke pauses, grins, and looks at you.
Hey, think your hotel magic chick could whip up a telescope for us?
It's difficult to make complicated objects. You have to be able to tell the hotel how. But I think there are some schematics for different machines, telephones, stuff like that down in the bedrock. Asterion told me he got everything organized on one of the tables. You can take a look there and see if you can find anything for a telescope. If not, we can try to get something drawn up.
In the bedrock, huh?
Luke hems and haws for a long moment. He scratches at the underside of his beak. His tail flicks behind him. No one really likes the bedrock.
Alright! You open the way and me and Blue Boy will find those skimmajiggers in a jiffy.
Excuse me? Me?
Well, yeah, 2 pairs of eyes will find what we're looking for faster than one, right?
You're just scared to go alone. The dragon looks to you, and you give him a helpless shrug in return. Luke's right, and even if Kota doesn't want to admit it, all 3 of you know it. You're going to pester me until I say yes, aren't you?
Yep!
In the face of the griffin's shameless smile, Kota can only sigh, shake his head, and resign himself to his fate. Very well, I suppose we should make our way down sooner rather than later, yes? Hey, listen, before you do, can I tell you 2 something? You glance around and then gesture the dragon and the griffin in close. It's about Asterion. Is everything alright? I think so. It's just... Kota and Luke wait for you to gather your thoughts. You weigh each word before you speak, trying to decide how much to tell him. How much you have the right to tell them. He's been through a lot. You remember how the hotel was when we were just reopening, right? The dragon nods. His expression is grave as he waits, patient and placid for you to continue. Well, his family hasn't been able to keep the hotel in good shape since the last master abandoned it. When I came around, it was just Asterion here. So he's been through a lot, and things can get difficult for him sometimes. I know we had fun last night, but this morning, he might need a little time. Luke nods, then he speaks in a quiet, even tone that's surprising to hear from the griffin.
He can take all the time he needs. We ain't gonna force him to come out with us. But if he's feeling better by tonight, both he and you sure are welcome to join the fun.
Thank you, Luke. The griffin tips you a wink, and his heavy paw claps you on the shoulder.
Of course, it's the least I can do for you and him. So, shall we?
Yes. Right. With that said and done, the 3 of you break your huddle. You open the passage to the bedrock for them, humming just like Asterion taught you. After seeing the griffin and the dragon off, you resolve to check in on what else needs to be done. The hotel is alive once more, and it's the master's duty to take care of the guests who pass through its open doors. But first, breakfast. Please feed the boy. Then you see if he knows anything about stuff disappearing. The griffin and the dragon make their way down the winding stone hallway, their footsteps echo in the silence surrounding them, rushing ahead into the labyrinthian depths awaiting the pair.
So... Back here again.
Silence falls again, a stifling blanket that engulfs the pair. Just when it starts to become unbearable, it's broken by a low, reedy whining sound.
Will you stop that?
God damn it, is the snake in the house?
What's the matter? Don't like my whistling? To be frank, it sounds like someone is strangling a cat. Rude. I ain't scared, you know? I mean, what's there to be scared of? It's just a creepy basement in a freaky magic hotel. Yes, nothing to be scared of at all. Can you let go of my arm? I think I'm starting to lose circulation. Oh, sorry.
Luke's hand jerks away, rising up with palms out while he gives Coda a sheepish grin. The two continue down the passageway, and while neither acknowledges it, their shoulders continue to brush together as if confirming the other's presence. And then they turn one last corner and stand on the threshold of their destination. When he'd been down there assisting, as much as he could at least, with getting the Wi-Fi to work, Coda had been able to find distractions from the oppressive wrongness that filled the room. But now there's no one to serve snacks or tea to, no chattering from a certain over-enthusiastic young woman, and the feeling clenches like a fist around his old, pattering heart.
After you.
No, please, I insist, after you.
Nah, it's fine, ladies first, right?
Truly, I beg your pardon.
On three?
That would be acceptable.
Alright, here goes. 1, 2, 3!
The Griffin lets out an involuntary squawk as he rushes into the room. He flinches and raises his fist when he hears a low, deep rumbling, but then realizes that the sound is coming from behind. Kota is still standing at the entrance to the room, hiding a small smile behind his hand.
Asshole!
Come now, Mr. Walker, aren't you the one always telling me to lighten up? Luke's beak opens, then falls shut. Open and then falls shut. The Griffin rubs the back of his head and lets out a quiet laugh. He can't argue with that. Now then, the telescope.
Yeah.
The Griffin moves towards one of the tables and starts searching through the stacks of documents.
Rukari said these Skirwatsits should be over here, right?
That's correct. Kota watches Luke rifle through the papers, wincing as a few drop off the table to scatter on the floor. While the Griffin makes a mess of Astarion's handiwork, the dragon's gaze begins to wander. To the wall of obsidian filling half the room. To the bottomless basin at the center of the massive chamber. To the piled up instruments along one wall, and then to the folders lined up on another nearby table. Contracts. Kota isn't sure at first what draws him to approach and begin flipping through these folders. But as he hums to himself, he searches out names, descriptions, anything that might spark a single hint of familiarity. When he had asked Rukari and Asterion, they both said that they didn't know of any guests like the man he was searching for. It wasn't like he didn't believe them, but perhaps it was further in the past than Asterion's family could remember. Perhaps Rukari, being new and inexperienced, wouldn't even know where to look in the records. Perhaps it wasn't the Red Dragon, but one of the names Kota had sought out when his journey first began, hiding somewhere within those pages. Perhaps. It was less than unlikely, but the mere possibility was like an incessant itch, and Kota had long ago lost the ability to resist scratching. He's gonna find out how old Asterion is, goddammit! Wait a moment, this is— Ah! The piercing shriek derails Kota's train of thought, and then something warm, feathery, and smelling of bacon grease and musk slams into his side and wraps its arms tight around him.
Gah! Luke, what are you— Let go of me! There's something over there!
The dragon's eyes follow Luke's trembling fingers toward a nearby pile of junk. He's about to speak when the sound of pattering feet cuts him off. A shadow moves behind one of the tables. Something breathes in the heavy silence. Kota looks at Luke. Luke looks at Kota.
Well, come on then. Let us see what it is.
Kota edges towards the source of those sounds. Luke, meanwhile, takes a moment to grab a heavy paperweight before following. Just inching off screen. Slow, careful, quiet, they edge towards whatever is in there with them. Luke looks at Kota. Kota looks at Luke. The dragon nods, and a silent count begins. 1, 2, 3. Kota grabs the table and heaves it away from the wall with a loud roar, while Luke surges forward with a predator's screech and his weapon held high.
Hiya!
Okay. Eep! The little creature, and there's a kobold in the house! Oh, he's so adorable! The little creature flinches and screams as its hiding place is yanked away. With a yelp of fear, it tries to scramble back into the shelter of the table. Get away! Something else slams into Luke's back, wrapping thin arms around the griffin's neck with a high-pitched war cry. And then the pile of junk erupts, and another little creature flings itself at Kota. Pandemonium fills the room, grunting and screaming, scratching and scrambling. Koda stumbles and trips over a thin-limbed body. Luke staggers and grunts with every blow of tiny fists on the crown of his head. Listen, there's nothing more dangerous than 3 kobolds in a trench coat. While the 2 were surprised by their assailants, they are both larger and stronger. Luke reaches to grab the thing clinging to his back, and even as the creature snaps and snarls and squirms in his grip, the griffin manages to pull it off. Kota, meanwhile, rolls on the ground to grab the cowering little thing that tripped him up at the crook of one arm. The creature that slammed into the dragon's side tries to scamper away, but despite his size, Kota is swift. He surges like a tide, like a tide to engulf the fleeing foe. The pair finally stand, bruised and mussed, but victorious. Their wriggling opponents let out shrill squeaks of panic as they're carried over and set down near the obsidian wall. When the little creatures look around for an escape route and see the dragon and the griffin boxing them in, they wail and huddle together while cowering on the floor.
Let us go! We didn't mean it! Please don't hurt us!
The dragon and the griffin stare down at the diminutive reptilian beings. Luke takes in the scraps of clothing the trio are wearing, scavenged no doubt, while Kota turns at the sight of their pallid scales and sunken features. It's the dragon who finally sighs and crosses his arm, gazing down at the shaking lizards.
Hush now, little ones. We will not hurt you, I promise. Tell that to my aching head!
Kota shoots Luke a look, and the griffin goes back to sulking while rubbing at his bruised noggin.
I am Kota, an employee of this hotel. Tell me, are you the ones who have been stealing food from upstairs?
After sniffling and wiping his snout, the darker scale lizard speaks.
We had to!
That's not the darker scaled one, that's the darker scaled one.
We've been starving for so long, and we won't do it again, honest. Just let us go, and we got a New York accent. What do you want from us?
The lizard looks up at Kota and trails off. His yellow eyes peer at the looming male for a long moment, then grow wide.
A dragon!
The other 2 lizards fall silent as if the word was a flipped switch. They too lift their heads to look at Kota, and the same expression of awe spreading on their darker scaled companion's face lights up theirs as well.
Dragon! It's really a dragon! It's a dragon!
The 3 lizards chirp with delight, and their snouts split into wide, toothy, beaming grins.
A dragon! We finally found a dragon! Wait, that means we...
Blinking eyes widen in realization and then horror. The trio throws themselves down to the ground at Kota's feet and cling to the dragon's ankles.
We're sorry! We didn't know!
Really? It's alright? Please? Peace, little ones, peace!
Kota looks from the whimpering lizards over to Luke, his own expression dumbfounded. He murmurs vague consolation to the trio while bending down to give them gentle pats between their horns.
So, what are these guys? I'm lost. I have an idea. Regardless, they aren't a threat, per se, maybe to themselves. In fact, it seems that they are as much in need for shelter as any other guests of the hotel. Yeah? In that case, we should go tell Rukari and Asterion about him.
At the mention of the Minotaur's name, Kota's gaze drops to the floor.
Indeed. What's wrong now, blue boy? It's nothing. Although...
Kota distracts himself from the supplicating lizards, giving them quiet instruction to stay put for a moment. They chirp in obedient acknowledgement, watching along with Luke as the dragon returns to the table. Kota picks up the file folder he'd been flipping through before the interruption.
Would you mind confirming something for me, Mr. Walker?
He holds the folder out to the griffin.
Sure. What you need now? Just read, and I think you'll understand.
Are these contracts readable? Are they not in, like, ancient Minoan or something?
Alright.
When the dragon hands the documents over, Luke begins to flip through them. And now they know the secret.
Huh? What the hell is this?
Oh no, we've been had, boys! Finding a lack of the coveted leftovers, a man must rise up with the challenge. After all, a makeshift snack after a makeshift snack for you and Asterion, you start work on the most divine of all foods. Bread. Grazing your finger over a heaping cup of flour to rid it of the excess. Less than a spoonful of salt, water, and yeast mixed together to bring it back to life. Each ingredient in its rightful quantity and proper place. Mix it all, first uneven lumps, then half-mixed string, sticky enough to form a web from index to thumb, firm enough to be plucked. Keep mixing, it'll stay between your fingers like a memory of the times when our ancestors had webbed hands. Sweat drips from your forehead. Struggle with the towel to wipe it, leaving a string of dough on it. Wait, let the bread rise, knead it, grab its edges, and fold it over itself 4, 8, 12, 16 times. You know it takes a long time to make a loaf of bread. You could just probably summon from the house instead of making him wait hours for you to knead. Let the dough rest. Like, this is a time-consuming process. Let it sleep inside a basin. It takes a while for the bread to rise enough to push off the lid, but sure enough, the time comes. A sharp scent of alcohol shall rise. Knead it, feel as it resists against your grasp until it's been folded in on itself into a neat, smooth ball, almost bursting at the seams. Knead and rest until it's ready, however many times it takes. There is something divine in all the stages of baking, the smoothness of flour and the diminutive heat of activated yeast, the eye-watering scent of alcoholic fermentation. Chief among them is the aroma of bread in the oven and the joy of sharing it. Look up. There's someone on the sofa, your servant, roommate, business partner, dear guest, a man's mind in the body of a hybrid. There's something divine in the eyes. In yours, in his, in the eyes of mankind, and all the beautiful, human-like beasts with which our empire was built. It hasn't been long since you met this man called Asterion, but the cadence of his voice, the reverence in his words, the shifts in his face, by now there may be familiarity. His moods are clear in your mind's eye. At times you might even find yourself anticipating the next step of his dance. What a pagan ritual this is, cooking for the Minotaur of legend while he broods. His rough fingers graze and tap away at the tablet until he finds an issue he can't resolve. His posture goes rigid, and you know too well to check on him. It happens every 20 minutes. It fits well enough with the dough's rest times. He's quiet now, more than when you left him. Whatever attempt at extracting some truth is met with a disoriented grunt. Give him time. The both of you have it in plenty, after all. Go back to your pagan ritual of kneading dough for the brooding man. Be dutiful. There is something divine at play in cooking, in mankind's eyes and hands. Should fortune smile, you too will carry this divinity in yourself. Let time pass, eat and drink, let the man rest. His heart dances to its own odd rhythm.
This is weirdly poetic after the whole kobold thing.
Is this what you were after, I wonder? Why did you, master of masters, come to this sorry desert? Here the Lord may summon diamonds at his fingertips, but it's not why you were enticed to own this land. Perhaps this is what you were after, a realm where a man may conduct the pagan ritual of finding a kindred spirit. There is something divine in providing grace to an ailing soul, and so you must cook while he rests. You are the master, and for this silent afternoon he is your guest. Slave away at the oven, open the wine, pour its contents into your finest glass. Call the man to feast, even if his appetite is lacking. He eats in silence. You hum and tap your feet to a beat only God knows. You exchange glances and ponder how his eyes always seem too wet. Asterion's nostrils flare as he lets out all the old, stagnant air accumulated in his lungs. His shoulders drop as a shiver crawls up his spine, leaving a trail of hair standing up. His chest thrums a bassy rumble, hooves scrape against the floor. You feel his voice 5 beats before it arrives.
I don't have it in me to pretend anymore.
What do you mean?
I don't deserve any of this.
The Minotaur looks through you, hazy eyes, tired and fearless. I'm afraid I don't get it. He parts his mouth and draws a breath. From your place across the dinner table, you can hear a wheezing. He licks his lips, but the tongue is just as dry, cups his hands together and rubs them for warmth. Today his voice is not as high-strung as usual. Each syllable flows without rhythm or dance.
I am a wretch, Rukari, born and killed like one, sentenced by the gods for my cowardice.
The Minotaur pinches his forearm and twists. He bites his cheek, deforming it inwards, then his jaw grows tense as he tests his own limits.
When you left, I read on about me, my own story, nothing I wasn't aware of, but it was interesting seeing it all laid bare. Would you care to hear it, all of it from the beast itself?
The Minotaur draws another struggling breath. He pinches his forearm harder, twists it, and unlocks his throat once more. A drop of sweat runs down his forehead to his chin, then drips to his clothes. His ears and tail flick back and forth as if hornets were floating around them. Between the two of you, there is only a short wooden table, about an arm's length. Its corners were once sharp, now they are blunted by age and wear. You ignore his question. Instead, more pressing matters come to the surface. His twisting of his arm, the wheezing from his throat, the death-black fear consuming him. He's at your arm's reach, but the distance is insurmountable, and his question, whether or not he may proceed, is the wrong one entirely. You nod, and he begins.
I was sentenced to this land because of my cowardice. I allowed a man to kill me. My mother lost herself during my birth. Bringing a monster to life is reason enough to lose half of one's own mind. I had siblings, too many to count, although as you may guess, my mother's body could not bear another after my birth. My guard, he was my friend. His name was Veronius. I was not allowed to work, but I made myself useful. My father, king and highest priest of our faith, would take my blood to bring fertility to the people's crops. In the stories I read about myself, they called me a cannibal, and here's the truth, Rukari, indeed I was. One day, my 3 sisters tricked me into eating beef. I am half bull after all. Doing so is just as much cannibalism as it would be eating a human. I had been taught to avoid it, but they deceived me. From that moment onwards, my life went to ruin. I was sent to the labyrinth where I lived out the rest of my days. It was punishment, yes, but also a safety against whatever fears they had. It was also a duty. I was sent there to tend to a temple and to keep a relic safe. I tended to the flame Rukari for years. Only once did it go out, and it was not out of negligence, although in retrospect I wish it was so. I killed a holy man. His son brought him to me in hopes I could put him out of his misery, and I did, but that was an unforgivable crime. I was stained with it. I took a life that Zeus himself had marked as everlasting. What could I have done after that? But the man's son told me sweet words. A redeemer would come, he said, so I waited, and he did arrive. I gave my life. Cowardice is what it was branded as, ignoble disgrace at best, for a prince to give his back to a blade with no valor fought. But in Hades I found peace. My brother Androgeus defended me, and the judges of the dead cleared me of all charges. I enjoyed 3 years of freedom in Hades before I was kidnapped to this realm to serve the sentence the gods saw fit. For centuries the masters did as they pleased, until one saw fit to end my trials. I am rot in Rukari. When I am wounded, that's what leaves me. Rot and decay. I am dead. I know what will happen. You don't have to lie to yourself about who or what I am. Neither do you have to deceive me or prolong it. Out of kindness, you will grow tired of me, as all do. Eventually, I do not have it in me to be a toy talked to like a man. You have shown yourself to be kind, more than most masters, but I know that it's only a matter of time, until you grow bored and see that it's foolish to take care of a slave for yourself. That anticipation, the tension, that I cannot bear. Hain, on the other hand, I have mastered. So please, let's end this charade. I cannot bear it any longer. Do as you please with me.
You have come quite a way in your journey, kind master. Inherited an old treasure of humanity, investigated its inner workings, healed the keeper, overcame the snake's allure, welcomed wanderers both virtuous and unsightly, and yet it did not cost you much. Your actions were small and unexceptional. You did not bleed or toil for it. But goodness does not always come of blood or sweat. Sometimes doing the decent thing when faced with infinite temptation is noteworthy enough to be heroic. You could have given in to your baser urges. To become a man, a boy sacrifices part of his potential to harm, those small, embittered ideas that grit your teeth, decisions. No, to become a man, a boy sacrifices part of his potential to harm. A newborn holds infinite possibilities for good and bad. But the boy sacrifices potential in his path to adulthood, after all. As a man, his potential to harm is snipped away by all the choices weighing him down. So rise, kind master, and reveal yourself. I'm afraid you misunderstand who I am.
You are human.
So are you. Haven't we discussed this before? I don't even know what to say at this point. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell I convince him to not be scared of me. What you are asking of me, I refuse to do it. It is not a matter of what I am, what a human is. It's about who I am. I have been kind to you, Asterion. We have not known each other for long, but I'm not just humoring you or making fun of you to call you my friend. Well, you want me to just end your doubt and hurt you? I don't know what previous masters might have done or how they acted, but for my part, my part, I just don't have it in me. I won't hurt you, and I don't say this as an act of kindness or charity, it's just who I am. So if I was to be firm with you about anything, it should be this. No, I won't. Maybe you're right in the sense that the pain I can inflict on you is more bearable than the distress you feel, but I'm not that man. I will not give up from what I believe is right. Being kind to you isn't a game. It's just basic. It's decent. It just is. Do you consider me a friend, Asterion? I realize this is a tricky question. The power I have over you is nothing short of absolute, but listen to what I said. I will not hurt you. This is not charity or mercy, it's the right thing, and I will stand by it even if I have to shackle myself to do it. His breath hitches at the mention of shackle. But I must ask a question. What we've gone through so far, was all of it a master and servant going through the motions? Or was it you and I, Asterion and Rukari? The Minotaur blinks and feels the velvet around them the night before, when they embraced. How he forgot the sound of his own footsteps. You told me about the hotel's mission, to give a place to those who have nowhere to go. I am telling you, right here, right now, unequivocally, that I swear by it. I will hold on to the mission. And you don't have anywhere to go either. So this place should be a place for you too. I won't hurt you. The Minotaur's cheek deforms as he bites on it. He sinks his nails into his own forearm and drags them as if twisting his skin. These are pretty common anxiety stims. You're like just trying to you don't know how to process or say the things inside of you, so you end up doing things that are painful because on the one hand it's kind of a stress release, on the other hand you kind of feel like you deserve it, and I'm so sorry, and I don't know how to convince myself I'm worth it, so I don't know how to convince you, but we're just gonna hope that the author has better writing skills than I do when it comes to self-help. He draws a breath. O Lord of Guests, he thinks, what devising sent this man to me? Fates, is he yet another of the trials devised to break me? Or Lady Hestia, have you taken pity on me one last time? Or was it your grace, earth-shattering Poseidon? Please give me a sign that this is true, and not yet another suffering I must endure. We can do this together. But I must ask something of you. See me as myself, Rukari, and not as master. Wasn't I telling you about making us into partners? What was it you told me, that the labyrinth wouldn't make it official? A few times you referred to this whole land as the labyrinth, right? I suppose that's what it's meant to be called. But I don't see much of a labyrinth. This is clearly a hotel. That's the truth you built, and even if there are contracts and laws beneath it, it won't stop being a hotel. So does it matter what's it called, what word we give it? Don't the facts take precedence? So fuck the labyrinth and its rules. We'll order the facts and that makes reality. We don't need a contract to make things work. We can just do it. Say you are my business partner, go with it, and before long everyone will believe it. Because it's the truth. More of it than any piece of paper will ever be. If my words mean something, if I can stick to my promise, then you can and will be my partner. The roaring, overpowering silence wrenches the Minotaur's heart, crushes his lungs, and washes away anything Rukari could say. He coughs, but doesn't notice it, and when he opens his eyes... His brother's ghost is in front of him, and I think we're gonna call it here. What the hell just happened? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this episode. I think we're going to get a pick back in the next one as we're talking with a ghost of Androgeus who suddenly appeared before Asterion to give him life advice. Clearly I needed some help and the gods granted it upon me. Oh, this series gets so much stranger with every episode. I'm gonna go. Have a great day. Hug your cat, kiss your dog, whatever you want to do. I don't know. I got nothing else. Goodbye!